Marcus Gooda.
Hello.
Thanks for doing this. Welcome to the show.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
All good. So I always start this thing the same kind of way. What is your earliest music memory?
So my earliest music memory is probably one of two. So in the house, my dad always would play guitar. Stuff like Counting Crows, Crowded House, Oasis. So had all that instilled in me from a very young age. And my uncle was always in bands, and when I was very young, he was in quite a not prolific band, but in the Norwich scene, they'd always win Battle of the Bands and stuff like that. So my mum would always play his music around the house. I never went to a show, but definitely remember listening to his stuff in the car and in the house. So it's not like playing an instrument memory, but it's definitely one that's I've carried with me always.
When you were watching that, did that start you thinking, I could do that? I sort of want to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know when the exact moment was that I decided to pick up a guitar and really go for it. But just I think my dad playing guitar in the house made me want to play because I wanted something to do with him, so we could play together. And I always thought my uncle looked, cool on stage and seeing the pictures and stuff like that. So that was always a draw.
That's cool. What kind of music did they play? Your uncle?
My uncle was in a proper rock band.
Yeah.
With the
long hair or
no, but black hair, piercings, guitar down to your ankles.
That's fair,
kind of not quite spandex, but
getting
almost
there.
spandex.
So what about yourself? When did you first kind of start learning instruments?
So I had guitar lessons at school when I was 8 years old. When I first started middle school, I think it was my decision rather than my parents' decision, because I was really into Red Hot Chili Peppers at the time, and I didn't know Flea played bass back then, but I knew that he looked cool and insane on stage, so I wanted to play guitar. And that was kind of not very serious. I wouldn't go to many lessons. And it was, I had nylon string guitar, so it wasn't like a proper guitar.
Yeah.
So I was learning some classical music, some early foundations of music theory. And then it wasn't until I was about 12 years old, my first day of high school, or my first week of high school, I had a guitar lesson booked in. And I remember calling my mum up and being like, don't feel very well, don't want to go, because I thought it was just going to be more classical stuff, and I didn't really want to do it. And I remember going, and this guy was called Mr. Durant. And it turns out he was the dad of someone I was, in my year. But he was just so approachable and cool, and showed me some easy rock stuff, and wasn't what I was exposed to usually with learning guitar. So that was the moment where I was like, I'm gonna learn guitar now.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it a go.
I think it's so important just to have if you get someone you can connect to, who can communicate properly what it's all about. And
definitely. And I think having a teacher who was on your side rather than teaching out of a book. I think we did do a little bit, we did up to grade 2, I think, of rock school guitar or something. And then when I was about 14 years old or 13 years old, I started getting into bass, because then I realized that Flea played bass. And no one played bass in my school, so I was like,
oh right, the
play.
school's bassist.
Everyone wanted me to join their band. So when I had just had a couple of people I'd never really met before come up to me after school one day. I was like, you play bass? Yeah. Oh, do you want to be in a band? We had a school Battle of the Bands competition and stuff. That was my first gig. And that was really cool. I think we played Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze. We did My Hero by Foo Fighters, and then we did one of our own.
Okay,
so just 3 songs, but I hadn't ever listened to Purple Haze, and I played it live just because they told me what the
really
were.
No way.
It's these chords, just go for it. And I was like, sure.
Do you think you nailed it?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, there's some footage of it somewhere.
Did you kind of go on to do grades for guitar or bass or anything?
No. So I finished education at school after my GCSEs. I didn't do anything else. Until much later. So I sort of had a 3-year off education, kind of I went to a college and stuff. But during that time I did some grade 8 stuff, but I didn't do anything else. So I just sort of did it for the grades and just did it for just to say I had it, I think. And I think I had learned enough playing in my room by myself, just learning scales on and off, and then going to these college things. Then I had what was necessary to pass the grade 8. So I went to a place in Stratford called British Academy of New Music, which is an offshoot of Access to Music.
Yeah.
And I was there for a year, and that sort of helped me, shape me as a musician as well. Met some of my like most influential people that have ever had an impact on me musically. But yeah, for grades, I just sort of jumped straight into it, really.
Yeah.
But I feel they are necessary if you're going to use them for an educational process, especially like the Trinity stuff. Before getting to like jumping the gun too much, I do a lot of freelance tutoring now. Yeah. So I've had to like relearn all the grades in order to teach other kids. Yeah. So I've like learnt all the grades and stuff and all the classical stuff, but they want it for their UCAS points to get into university. They don't really want to pursue music. And I think the grades are really useful for that, but if you want to grow as a musician, maybe less so.
Yeah, I guess it's each to their own, I guess, as well. It depends on what you're like, what you connect to in that. I mean, did you have any like bad habits of playing? I mean,
totally. When I was again playing bass, I had a really aggressive fingerstyle approach. My slap technique was the flea slap across the strings, and it was horrendous. And I used to play like really fast and really hard, and then wonder why my wrists were gonna like explode. But having formal lessons and being introduced to these other tutors ironed it out over the years.
That's fair.
Definitely horrendous. Horrendous technique.
So what about like starting to play bands? Obviously you said about being the only bassist and people wanting you to join their bands and that. When do you think was like the first band that you kind of, I guess, took fairly seriously?
Oh wow. It's probably so after that first high school band. We played together for quite a while actually, but at the same time as that, me and sounds weird, my ex half cousin, right? So my uncle just married his mum and then they split up. A guy called Joe Matze from Norwich. We basically learned to play guitar properly together, right? Like not in lessons, but we just put on Green Day records and tried to work them out. So when American Idiot came out, we were just like power chords, learn everything. And so as American Idiot, we learned all of Dookie as well, and just pretty much made our way through their discography. And we pretty much spent every single day of the summer together. Like school, saw each other the weekends, and then during the summer just lived at each other's houses. Like we used to play Medal of Honor, Rising Sun, and play guitar. And then he played guitar and sang, and then I played bass. And then we're like, we should probably find a drummer and try and play some shows. And that band was called K-Pop, which I was in, how long? It was like 4 years in Norwich.
Really,
split up when I think I was from the age of like 13 to 17. Right, I was with them, and did some cool stuff. Played the Waterfront and played the Arts Centre as well. Never really did much like touring, but we were in NME a couple of times.
That's really good. Yeah,
just like brief mentions, no features and stuff. But I think our place in the Norwich scene was the opposite of like what was going on at the time. So it was like not punk, but like the opposite of punk, because there was loads of indie going on, like that shouting like indie punk to stuff, scrappy. So we were like, no, we're gonna sound like Muse, and we're gonna sound like all these alternative rock bands that we like instead, and play like what I thought was technical music at the time, but not so much. But it was just branching out. So that was probably I like the first band I was talking about in high school was called Wired. That was quite serious, it taught me loads of stuff, and we played some cool shows. But I think like K-pop was where my first like band was, where
definitely
we all sort of collaborated and did some cool things.
Anyone who, whether you know Norwich or not, but like the Waterfront, we talked before this how the Waterfront was like, you just wanted to play the Waterfront. Like obviously, like I loved the Arts Centre so much, and I've been really lucky to play both of them, and I loved it. But there's something about the Waterfront downstairs with that rail in front and everything.
It just was so
it's
cool.
Legit.
Yeah, definitely, it was awesome. I know like some people say they're like, the LCR, but I think if you're like a local Norwich level, the Waterfront seems attainable. Whereas the LCR, like 1,500 people. I know there's a couple of things that people tried there, but always the Waterfront, always cool. I think it was just super easy for people to get to, and from the train station, people coming in from other areas of Norfolk. Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, it was great. I love the Waterfront.
Good times. Sort of going through those bands, this might be like skipping a few paces or whatever, but what about, because you're a session musician, how did that come about with, going from bands?
Cool. So pretty much my only like life goal has been to play music, like since a very young age. I think I was about 14 when I talked to my dad, and I was like, I want to do this for a living.
Yeah.
And he was putting all my eggs in one basket, but he was super supportive.
Mm.
My mum, bless her, really supportive, but you have asked me to get a real job a couple of times, and especially when money has been tight. But now they both had their both backed me. So the kind of cut-off point was when I came to London.
Yeah.
My parents had split up, and my band had split up as well. K-pop had split up.
Yeah.
So it was me and a guy called Matt Hunter, who was playing in the band that came after K-pop, just very briefly. We came to London together, and we were doing lots of sofa surfing, and I kind of just went for it. Just went to loads of jam nights, stayed on people's sofas, did a bit of stuff at Banham with the college, but after that it was playing jam nights, getting people drunk enough for me to stay on their sofa, and networking that way.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty, I don't want to say dark period of my life, because I learnt so much and met so many people, had a great environment, but it was very much, and again, sorry mum, but it was not knowing where I was staying that night, not knowing if I'd be able to eat that night. I think it was kind of like a reckless thing that had instilled in me, but I wanted it so badly. And that was the moment where I decided that I'm going to make this work, no matter how. And it's just going to these jam nights, or it started off as going to these jam nights, meeting people, making connections, going to shows, just trying to put yourself out in front of as many people as you can. And I'm quite an introverted person, so to do that was really scary. But back then, it's kind of like a big 9-month, 10-month blur of not really knowing what was going on, but just kind of did it. And then I think I was definitely 18, probably 19, and I got seen playing a show, and got talking to someone about the Institute of Contemporary Music Performance, which is where I ended up going to uni. So I did a 4-year course there. First year was higher diploma, because I had no A-levels or qualifications, so just to boost that up, apart from GCSEs. And then did my degree there. But that was sort of the environment to make yourself a session player. During that time, when I was doing stuff at British Academy of New Music and sofa surfing, I met a guy called Nathan Williams, who was probably one of the most influential people I've ever met in my whole life. He's now playing in Jamiroquai.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredible as guitarist and keyboard player. But when I met him, he was like a bass tutor. And he helped me iron out like a lot of my kinks in my technique and my musical knowledge. There's a lot of things, again, talking about other session players and sort of getting into it. Everyone I spoke to wanted to be the best at what they wanted to be. Like, I want to be the best bass player in the world. I'm going to be like Victor Wooten and play all this crazy stuff. Or, drummers, I'm going to be like Steve Gadd and stuff. And that's fine, but I never wanted that. And I still don't want that. I want to be the best that I can be as a musician myself. I want to be able to bring what I can bring to the table. Not like these crazy chops, because I know people want that, and that's fine, but I know I'm not that kind of person. I can do some cool stuff, I can like shred and do all the crazy solos and whatnot, but I also know that when someone comes to me to help them bring their song to life, say it's like a pop song, they're not going to want me just to be like just well, that's cool. I like to just try and instill a lot of emotion and thought into the arrangements and playing. And going back a little bit to like in band life, in K-pop, like Joe would come up with a lot of the songs, but I was always sort of like the augmenter or arranger.
That makes sense.
I still find myself in that role for every band that's come since, apart from the Yacht Club, which is like my thing, but it's always been working with people to make their product, their songs, their ideas the best that they can be.
How does it work being like a session musician? How do people reach out?
It started off definitely a lot of word of mouth, and it is putting yourself out there. So it's going, like I said, going to these jam nights, going to shows or whatever. But if you are sessioning for other artists, best thing that I could recommend is make yourself known to everyone in the room, or at least the other people playing, because so many gigs that I've played, someone's come up to me and asked for my number or my card, or are you in, like busy on this date, or are you up for doing this with
That's
us?
really cool. Yeah.
So it's definitely making yourself well known, because no one is going to talk to you if you're not an approachable person. It's kind of like in
Definitely, yeah.
business. Like if you're the new guy in the office, kind of keep your head down, you don't really talk, and you don't really,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. They're not really going to invite you out to drinks afterwards at the work do.
Yeah, true.
So it's very much the same in session playing. You've got to be that approachable person initially. Put yourself out there and just try and make contacts, because if you do that and you're reliable and you're on time and you're punctual and stuff, then you never guess the amount of shows that I've just been on Facebook and I've had a message pop up. Bass player can't make tonight. You free?
No
Or
way.
like,
Yeah.
bass player can't make this gig.
Yeah.
Can you do it? And it's because I've done shows with them before, or they've seen me play before,
Yeah.
and they know that I can bring what I bring to the table
Yeah.
and do a good job. So it's about putting yourself out there, making sure you're known,
Yeah.
making not like I am the best, but
Yeah.
like no one knows how good people are until you play with them.
Exactly,
So you've
yeah.
got to put yourself out there.
Got to communicate.
And
Yeah.
communicate, yeah, definitely. And you can do that online as well, I guess, to a certain extent. Like there's lots of Facebook groups these days.
Yeah.
Let's say like London paid gigs in London for musicians in depths or something, which I've had people contact me on as well.
Yeah.
Someone will tag me, but again, it's who you know, and it's people like recommending you and people putting you forward and stuff like that. But it's a tough game to get into.
I think it's funny, like doing these kind of interviews, and basically all of them, it's always about, obviously the music industry is a contacts game. I think for anyone who might be watching, who's a musician, maybe who is kind of quite introverted and everything, it's such a difficult thing, but you do have to push yourself out of that, really, because you got to communicate. It's who you know. You're never going to get the new opportunities if you're silent, basically.
You never know where it's going to lead either. Like you just got to take a leap of faith sometime. If you're going to do sessions for free or something,
Yeah.
That sucks, because you're a working musician. You want to be paid for your time, as if a plumber or someone would
Yeah,
come in.
yeah.
You want to be paid for your trade, but sometimes you take these chances to do free shows in order to invest
Yeah.
later, I guess. A couple of other things, like a recent thing that I did a couple of years ago with this girl called Libby Key. She paid me for my session, which was great. But now she's backing vocalist for the 1975.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Her recent thing at the Live Lounge, I know she does a lot of like gospel and church stuff as well, but
Yeah.
she asked me to like play for free
Yeah.
at her single launches and stuff like that. And I said no, because I think I had like quite a lot on at the time, but I also thought, I kind of want to be paid for this,
Yeah.
even a little bit. But I don't know where that could have led to. But we're still connected online, so maybe something else will come out of that.
Yeah.
And there's another woman I played with called Janine Barry, who I did a load of country stuff with. And then that led to me playing the O2 Arena.
Oh,
So,
wow. No way. I
sort
didn't
of-
know that. Yeah.
Sort of who you know, and you play for free, and then someone else sees you, and you never know where it's going to come
Yeah.
from.
Definitely. How was that?
Insane.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
I can't even imagine what that felt like. I mean, looking out from the stage.
Yeah, we were fairly early on, so it wasn't like a full stadium thing, but it was like a country to country festival.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. And then like the next week, I played there in just like the forecourts to
Really?
as
Yeah,
people
yeah.
coming in. So it's quite funny. And I think moments like that keep you humble as a
Yeah.
musician, as well. You have all these like incredible highs.
Yeah.
Where
I
you
bet.
play these insane shows, thousands of people, and then you come back and play to no one.
Yeah. I think it's always going to happen. It must be like so difficult as well to get an arena set
Yeah.
compared to like 100 capacity room or anything. But I mean, is there, being a session musician, I know that it's obviously everyone's different how they do it, but do you play lots of different genres? Is it kind of...
Oh, definitely. I think unless you really want to be specialized, I think it's very difficult to do that.
Right.
My aim is just to be the most well-rounded musician that I can.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's led me to have the success that,
Yeah.
that I've had as a musician, and in originals projects as well.
Yeah.
Just to be sort of a musical chameleon almost.
Yeah, yeah.
So just to be adaptable and just have a knowledge of what you're doing. So if someone says, "Oh, I want this style in like Motown style,"
Right.
you know exactly what you're doing. If
Yeah.
you want it in like Britpop, or think Peter Gabriel, or Paul Simon,
Yeah.
you think, I know exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
You just got to have that intuition, and that requires a lot of listening. But London's a big city, lots of commute.
Yeah,
Spotify's
definitely.
your friend.
Yeah,
Let's hop on
yeah.
and get up to date. And yeah, a lot of listening, a lot of playing, and a lot of practicing. But I think having a wider range of genres has helped me, not only in a session musician way, but in like an originals project where
Yeah.
to know how to instill various emotions or various feelings
Yeah.
in your playing, that doesn't really come naturally to those genres.
Yeah.
Sort of cross over a lot.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the bands you've been involved with. So with Ducking Punches, how did that come about?
So I wasn't really doing much personal music back then. I just kind of like moved back to London after taking some time out. Yacht Club was going through some like tumultuous member changes and stuff, and then I saw Cal had left, and they put up a guitarist vacancy on their Facebook. And being a fan of the band before I joined, I just thought, well, I'm gonna take a stab at it. I was doing a lot of bass stuff at the time, even though I played guitar in Yacht Club. It was, I wasn't playing much like guitar either, but I thought, well, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I sent an email over, and then I initially didn't get it.
Okay, yeah.
And then the guy they had, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I got invited down to an audition of sorts in January.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember when it was exactly, but I remember going through the audition, and then 4 days later I was playing my first show with them.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. I learned both albums in like 4 days leading up to the audition, because I again, going back to the session musician thing, I really wanted to make that impression, that I wanted it, that I'd be considered, and I was serious. They asked me to learn like 6 songs or so, but I thought if I went in knowing everything, then I could just slide into any situation. So that was great. That's what happened. And yeah, it was really great to kind of have that almost like validation from a band you admire and band that you like the music of, to like give them a thumbs up and be a part
definitely.
of it. And it, that was the first band that I had been in, not on like a session level or Yacht Club, where it was on kind of a prestigious label that I could contribute artistically rather than as a session. Like, I'd done some really cool stuff with majors and big indies just as session or as a songwriter. But to go into a band that was doing some cool stuff on like Extra Mile, big indie label.
Yeah, definitely.
It's nice to sort of have made my mark on that side of music history.
Yeah, definitely. So what were kind of your highlights? Because I think you kind of went on different tours.
We toured a hell of a lot. We did some really cool shows. My personal highlights are probably the album launch shows we did. Because again, working on a new record that I got to put a lot of into, like writing wise and stuff, and to see that received really well. Like playing the Lexington was really cool. It's not like the biggest venue in London, but it's a venue where I've seen loads of bands that I love. Yeah,
definitely.
And to be on that same stage was awesome. Same with the Art Centre. We played the Art Centre before, but to have it just kind of be a special night, like we spoke about before. Like Waterfront's great, but Art Centre's also great.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of my favourite venues in the UK.
Yeah, definitely.
To play that as like the launch show, we had these big 9-foot skeletons on the stage.
Oh
and
wow!
some confetti cannons and stuff, and that was a real night to remember. That was awesome. We also played. I think my last show with them was Camden Rocks.
Oh yeah,
and that's a festival that I've always wanted to play. Underworld, a venue I've always wanted to play. So to tick that off the list as well was great. Like we were on the same stage as Sixth. And me. These bands I've been listening to since I was a teenager. So yeah, that was awesome.
That's really cool. And obviously now you're doing stuff with Employed to Serve. Yes. So how did that come about?
So it was after I announced that I had left Ducking Punches. Literally, I think the next day, got in touch with Rich, who's the guitar player, who I'd known before from like various sessions and like gigging circuit, and they had a bass player vacancy. And he was like, man, do you want to give it a go? So I was just, what's the deal? How are things? I haven't spoken to you in a while. And he was like, got some really cool stuff coming up. Just signed to a major label.
Wow,
got the new record ready to go next year. come down for an audition, like just film yourself playing some songs and stuff. And that was the most frustrating. So this is quite a funny story. It's quite lengthy, so I apologize.
No, go for it.
Prepping for that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life, because when we moved here, my MacBook broke. My girlfriend Ellie, she had just sold her MacBook, so we had no working computer apart from a really rickety 2006 iMac with 0.5 gig of RAM in it. It didn't run anything, so I had to get these videos somehow. So I filmed it on my phone, recorded on GarageBand on there, then realized that the computer's so old it won't talk to my phone. So I had to get it. I can't remember how I did it in the end. I think I tethered it to Dropbox, but it took like 7 hours to do one video. It was absolutely so frustrating.
Yeah, I bet.
And it took me 4 days, I think, to get the audio and the video synced up. And then what I had to do was we went back to Bournemouth to see Ellie's family. Put it on her dad's computer, uploaded it there, and then I sent it off. But
well, I mean, it shows that you wanted it.
Oh man,
I mean,
yeah. It was a solid, like the music's difficult as well. It's not easy. So, again, from a session music perspective, it was like I had to think of a lot of the theory that I learned. It's not linear songwriting. It's not like verse chorus.
Right.
Some of it is, but a lot of it isn't. And there's these like really speedy guitar runs, which are like, it's quite diminished. And once I work that out, I can like find out what's happening. But listening to it on the off, it's very much like, whoa, A, B, A, C, D, all this song structure stuff just going mental. But that was really exciting. Again, been a fan of the band before. It's quite not extreme music, but it's quite heavy and quite out there.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends playing in heavy bands, and I've heard the name, like it's on everyone's lips.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm really glad to again put my mark on that side of genres now. So like playing in a punk rock band, got to leave my mark. On to the next thing, playing in a metal band.
Yeah.
And obviously Yacht Club, like playing like a math rock emo band.
Yeah.
So to be able to fit into these things has been cool. But yeah, the guys at Employed to Serve, they've been so welcoming. I think going there and like showing how keen I was to join, and like again they asked for 3 songs, and I tried to learn most of their second record.
Yeah.
Because they don't play much of the first album anymore. So I think I learned all but one of the songs off their second record, and then they sent me the new one to learn. So I'm really excited for that to come out. I can't say too much about it. But I can say it's coming out next year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I've got it. It sounds brilliant. I didn't play on it.
Yeah.
Brett, the old bass player, has done a great job. I think he's left to focus on family.
Yeah.
Just because he's a bit older than the other people in the band. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to be touring that.
Yes.
Lots of shows.
Yeah. So again, can't talk too much about it, but we got some really cool festivals next year. Some sort of ones I've wanted to play forever. Got some shows late spring. And lots of other plans and stuff. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a busy next year. Hi, this is Marcus Gooda, and this is Such Great Heights.
So let's talk about the Yacht Club.
Yes.
You've mentioned it previously. How did that come about? Because I know you started it solo and then sort of went full band.
So the Yacht Club was kind of came about as a way to write music for myself for a change. I'd done so much session stuff and songwriting for other artists, co-songwriting, recording, that I hadn't really taken any time really to write a song for a lot of years. When you're starting out playing guitar, you write songs and stuff, and in your first bands they're always quite a little bit shitty, but but this was a conscious effort to do something for me for a change. And it was 2013 the first EP came out, and I didn't really have any like lofty ambitions for it. I did everything. I did all the guitars myself. I played bass on it. My friend Giles also played bass as well. My friend Ali, who plays in the Yacht Club now, played drums on it, because I was in sort of this instrumental post-hardcore chaotic band that never really did anything. I think we played one show, did like 4 songs recorded, but that was just like a bit of fun, and Ali played drums on that, so that's how we met. And the logical step forward, that if he's playing like quite complex fiddly music anyway, I'm doing this now. brought him in because I think he's not only a fantastic, he can play the drums really, really well, but he's a fantastic musician through and through. Like, so he's got a great feel, great understanding, plays piano and keyboard really, really well. So all over our full length, he's doing all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, 2013 it was the first EP. Decided not really to do anything with it for a bit. I just kind of put it out just for the sake of having it out. Made some t-shirts, made some hard copies, and then they sold out.
Oh wow!
Sold 100 CDs, 50 t-shirts, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have no plans whatsoever to it, I was like, oh, I probably should try and get a band together and play some shows now. And the lineup sort of dipped in and out. It's always been Ali on drums and me on guitar and vocals, but it kind of swam around for a little bit. In 2014, I had a guy called Dale Robinson, who's like a really good friend of mine from Norwich, play guitar. He left. Then we had two of the members from a band called Pharaohs play, Rob and Joe, but then they didn't want to play any of the old songs, so we kind of formed another band with them and did the Yacht Club as well, but that never really took off. And then my friend Sam joined, and that was the sort of the first full lineup of the Yacht Club. So late 2014, early 2015 was me, Sam on guitar, my friend from uni Alex on bass, and Ali on drums. And that lineup kind of lasted for a good couple of years. Alex went through a bit of a dark patch in his life, so it kind of dropped down to a three-piece, and then my friend Jack played bass for a little bit. And then when Alex came back, Sam left, and Jack went on to guitar from bass. And Jack now sings co-lead vocals, so it's kind of less of a solo project and more into a band, which is both a blessing and a curse, because it means that we can play less shows because everyone's busy with life and stuff. But it's nice to be more collaborative. And that was a weird tangent, but it was definitely birthed out of tired of doing session stuff at the moment. Just got a bit worn out not having artistic freedom for myself, and just to have something that could be so unfiltered and bare, like, oh, I want to write about this, so I'm going to write about it. Like, I don't have to go through a lens. It was very much, this is how I want to write, this is what I want to write. And around that time as well, there was the whole like math rock boom happening in Kingston and stuff. It was awesome, and there were so many bands that had just split up or like were fizzling out or whatever. And I remember recording with Tom Hill that first EP, and I was like, I want to be the next Pennines. I just want to sound like Pennines. Which is kind of extended throughout our whole discography.
I think most people have that. Like, obviously, for anyone who's listening, Pennines, Henry from now in TTNG, great band. But it's funny. I really remember that because being a promoter back in Norwich, like, I definitely put on a lot of those bands. It was such a mad time for like, math rock with TTNG and Colour and
Tube Lord, Blackfish, just so many bands.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of my aspiration, was to just do it for the sake of doing it. And I wanted to be sort of further down the line, I wanted to be the first sort of like twiddly math rock emo band or something to branch more into the mainstream and sort of get that noticed in sort of like the underground indie movements or stuff that's happening in London. Time will tell if that happens. It's quite an old project now, I guess, because it's just evolved. And having more people involved rather than it being a solo thing. Like, originally it was meant to be like Into It Over It, where it's like one guy and people come on, but that's the sort of sacrifice you make, having more of a creative, bouncing off and moving away from a solo thing into a band. You've got to understand that other people have lives and other people have other priorities.
So how important is, like, obviously, being a session musician, how important is it to have that creative outlet?
I think it's very, very important for any musician to have that creative outlet, regardless if you're a session musician or not. If you're playing in a band where you're in a creative environment with other people, definitely have something else for yourself. Because there might be ideas that they don't latch onto. And likewise, as a session player, when I'm going into those roles, I definitely know that's my job. And I know that, right, we have a brief or an outline to hit, or you want to sound like X, Y, and Z, so it's my job to help you achieve that. Like, we've got to get to that level. And even writing in Ducking Punches as well, when Dan had ideas and being like, I want it to sound like this, then I had to put my thinking cap on and be like, right, we're going to make it sound like this, or oh, we can do this to it and blah 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 blah. So to have something where you can do something without limitations, without anyone peering over your back, or without risk to upset anyone, is so important. It just stops you going insane.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, if you're in a band, like there's a classic thing which well, the members of Cream, like Jack Bruce thought they were in a jazz band and Eric Clapton thought they were a blues band.
Yeah.
So they're constantly fighting with each other. So, you know, if you're, you know, in the Yacht Club, like I remember Alex was sort of saying, oh, crazy math rock band with lots of mad riffs, and I was just like, I just want to be like put emotion into it.
Yeah.
You know, do the like twinkly emo thing. And so, you know, there's the conflict.
Yeah.
And to go and write stuff yourself where you don't have to worry about it. And again, in, you know, Ducking Punches, quite straight up, you know, lots of chords, lots of distortion, to go away and just be like open tuning, clean guitar.
Yeah.
is important. And again, a lot of session stuff, pop, jazz, you know, it's all very, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And if, you know, I spend an entire day or an entire session with that thinking cap on, especially when I was doing a lot of country as well, to then be able to have an outlet or an out for a more creative side, is invaluable. Like, definitely necessary for your own sanity and health.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of the songwriting with the Yacht Club and Ducking Punches focused on mental health, and it's something that I'd always want to try and talk about as often as possible. So could you maybe speak a little bit about that?
Yep. So like you said, it's definitely a conversation that we should all be having. I'm glad that more people are talking about it and stuff. And it's more, I see a lot of things online about mental health awareness, and maybe we should be doing less mental health awareness and more mental health openness, just being open to it and having those discussions. Because I think if people, like, saying awareness gets people on like a hypersensitivity thing, where it's like, oh, everyone's aware but no one's talking about it, you know, you're just sort of like silently sitting by and watching things happen. Whereas if you're open to it, then I think that's more of a positive step forward, just being open to hearing about it, hearing about people's days, hearing about people's problems and stuff, and knowing that you can have those conversations with people. There's a lot of bands, you know, discussing this these days, and I think that's such a important and healthy step, especially in some of the genres that, you know, I've played in and operate in. It's often a lot of people who come from an alternative background, you know, not really doing the norm thing, and you know, finding solace in music, you know, whether that be, you know, as a result of bullying or feeling extracted at school, and you know, like we said, introverted people and stuff. So to have music that helps people is invaluable. I think I've done a really bad job of talking about this so far.
No, it's cool. I think it's important just to just talk openly about it and see where it goes. I mean, in terms of like the songwriting, how has that helped in terms of like expressing, I guess, your, you know, mental health?
I think having an outlet, especially with the Yacht Club full length, it centers a lot about my friend Blythe, who we lost to suicide, and he had some very bad mental health problems. That he was bipolar and was very erratic with his moods, whereas mine was just very much, you know, depression surrounding that and other things that happened as well, like with my father passing away naturally, one would think, but just dealing with depression as well, where there's no rhyme or reason for it to happen. So everything could be going really right in your life, and there's sort of almost like an aching sadness you can't explain that just sort of lingers in the back of your mind, whereas it can just pop at any time, even on the brightest and sunniest of days, and everything's going really great, and then for some reason you don't want to do anything, you want to sit inside. And I think a lot of, you know, I have lost a lot of friends through it and have pushed a lot of people away, but I think now, looking back in hindsight, maybe that's for the better. If I had friends who weren't willing to accept that, or understand what I was going through, or offer, you know, any form of support, then I think I'm better sticking with the friends who were there and were there to reach out. But yeah, the Yacht Club full length about my friend who died, I don't think if I hadn't have written those songs, it would have been a very difficult process to get through. It still was a very difficult process to get to, but to have that outlet and be able to discuss things. It also opens up the door for conversation with other people who might be struggling with similar things.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's obviously, the record's not just about my friend's death, but of all the things that surrounds it as well. So how I felt going into, you know, a new relationship, trying to carry that burden, how I feel sometimes, you know, not being good enough myself, or how do I react with my own mortality and understanding, you know, I have, you know, mental health problems as well. Does that mean that in some capacity that might happen to me? Or
Yeah.
I have to have the control and understanding of that. So to have those feelings out in song opens the door for conversation for other people who listen to it. And then I don't like to think like gigs as a therapy session or anything, but it's nice to have those conversations. Know you're not so alone. Know you that other people are going through the same things. Because it's some of it, like, unfortunately, meeting other people who have lost friends, very close friends, is becoming more and more common, it would seem. But to know that there are people out there who also have gone through that with you, it sort of builds solidarity. And again, with other things, with playing in Employed to Serve, for example, it's a very aggressive music, but to go on stage and be able to vent that out,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
with a lot of headbanging, a lot of thrashing around. It's kind of like expelling that anger that you have, you know, because even though you have a lot of sadness from depression, there's a lot of anger as well.
Yeah.
You know, so like maybe if you're having a bad day, you don't feel good enough, or you know, you're angry that you've passed opportunities up. And again, through session music, I've lost jobs before by not being able to keep on top of myself and having like bad days.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember, you know, losing some pretty good gigs because I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Just like not replying to people, putting off emails.
Yeah.
These things happen. And luckily, there are people who are understanding if you can be open about it. And I think that's again, one of the most important things is to be open.
Yeah.
And if you are due a rehearsal or you're due a gig, and just be like, look, I'm really sorry, but this is happening. I need to take some time out. I can't make this rehearsal, like, or I can't make this gig. I've got a dep. You know, you can call X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to, you know, turn the lights off and just stay in bed.
I totally agree, because I think a lot of it as well, it's one of those things that I don't think people necessarily truly understand until it happens to them, and hopefully it never happens to them, in terms of, you know, whether it's grief or depression or whatever it is. And for me, like, I had similar situations. So mention me, like my solo project, it basically came off the back of my ex-girlfriend took her own life. And she was involved in like the beauty blogging world and all that, and what that does to your identity and mental health, and, you know, whether it's being a beauty blogger or whatever it is, whether they were involved in that or not, like, everyone has these things that they have to deal with. And I found with Jacqueline dying, just the fact that she was always so happy and so like always smiling, and like trying to figure out every single week, like, it just doesn't make sense how she could sort of feel like that when she always seems so happy. And yeah, I think there's so, and I'm sure you find it as well, as everyone does with grief, like, just, you know, I think I could have done something, or if I did this, maybe that, and all the unanswered questions. It's so painful to kind of try and shut that off.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Blythe was the only person in my friendship group that I'd spoke to about mental health problems, because we both were going through stuff. And I was sort of in that, sounds weird saying, but like that sort of friendship group at school where it was very much like lads are lads, like blokey friends, and you know, still are, you know, to a certain degree. There's a lot of male patriarchal things that you don't talk about in a home. Don't talk about being sad. And I distinctly remember in high school, when it was first starting to like rear its head, that I would write a lot of songs or play a lot of music, and people would be, if I was sad or upset, just write a song about it, you know, play some guitar, or there's some tight jeans you're wearing today, Marcus, and stuff. And it's like, well, I just want to wear what I want to wear, and I want to write what I want to write. And I did feel very pressured to not talk about feelings and emotions. And you know, I think I'm quite an emotional person when it comes to music and expressing how I feel and stuff. So to have that quelled quite a lot, and like you know, in high school and it goes into later life, it's like, you're not allowed to be sad.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you're not allowed to be sad when, you know, you split up with a girlfriend. You're not allowed to be sad when your parents split up or something like that.
Yeah.
You just bottle it away and
Yeah.
don't talk about it. So, you know, Blythe was the only person I could talk to about that kind of stuff. And when he went, it was very difficult for me to open up to that way to people. You know, it wasn't until like years later that
Yeah.
I started openly discussing it.
I feel as well, like, because I completely can relate to that feeling of identity as like a young man. It was so, there's no room for movement whatsoever about this is like all guys are like this, like, and whereas I think this is probably getting better for, like, you know, young men and women coming up now, but then you add like social media and just what that does to people's mental health, like it's totally. You know, you replace one thing with another.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're constantly flooded with imagery of like the perfect male body or the perfect female body, and if you don't, you know, if you don't have that, or like, I don't have a six-pack, I don't have all these tattoos, I don't have, you know, X, Y, and Z, then you think, oh, I'm not good enough to be loved or be accepted in certain social circles and stuff. And there's a huge pressure on, you know, men and women, people in general, to look and conform a certain way, especially with, I know, I could never understand this either, but because I don't have to go through it, so I feel a bit weird talking about it, but with trans youth and trans people, worrying about passing. Because, you know, is it too masculine, too feminine? You know, as I said before, never had to deal with that myself, but I can understand and see that, you know, being in a society which isn't accepting of like body positivity and stuff like that, how difficult that is to fit in and to find your place in the world.
And I really feel like anyone who happens to watch this will have had the same kind of feelings that we've had, or, you know, same frustrations or questioning your identity or where you fit. And it's, you know, we're all in the same boat, and talking about it will definitely help. Is, you know, it might not resolve the issues, but like being, you know, brave enough to kind of try and talk about it and listening to for friends and like checking in on them and stuff like that. That's, you know, the least I think you can do, really.
And at the end of the day, it's no real detriment to, you know, if someone's opening up to you, there's no detriment to your life to lend an ear and listen. You know, the most you could do, damage you can do, is probably lose a couple of hours being a good friend.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just spending that time on the phone or, you know, online, just letting him vent. You know, Blythe would often pop up at like 4 a.m. and just be like, on the keyboard or on the phone, you know, but you had to be there, you know? And people value that, you know. Definitely.
And I mean, I find it so bizarre with this, you know, the online world that we live in and social media and everything. The fact that, you know, I can look back at Jack's messages from back in the day, the fact that she was, you know, a beauty blogger and YouTuber, so I can watch her and it's still, you know, online. It's such a bizarre, I can't quite figure out if it's kind of a good thing because I can kind of still experience her, or whether it's haunting in a way, or do you know what I mean?
It's really difficult. I think maybe it's a good thing if like time has passed and like, you can heal from it and stuff. Like you know, after my dad passed away, I find it very difficult to listen to his voice still. And going back on videos, like I have obviously pictures up with him and stuff, and that's great, but I think in your own time, when you feel strong enough to open those doors again, you know, it's just about, everyone's on a journey. Some people might be able to do it a month later, a year later, 10 years later, and it's just, you gotta take your time. Take your time to be you and heal yourself. No one's pushing you to be there. It's not a race. And, you know, getting better as well. It's not a race. It's not a challenge, you know. It's, you just take your time, do what you need to do to get there.
Do you have any advice from your own experiences of, you know, maybe what's kind of helped you? Not that it might not be the same for other people, but do you have any advice?
I think the main thing is and this sounds terrible because I do it all the time, but it's like, don't compare your life to other people's lives, because your journey is very different. I listen to a lot of bands, and I still get, you know, that pang of jealousy where I see like 20-year-old kids signing to major labels and stuff, and it's like, I'm in my mid-20s now.
Yeah.
I'm past it now. I got to stop.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, my journey through life has been very different to those people probably. And you know, they've done things which I haven't done, but I've done things they haven't done.
Yeah.
I've experienced things differently, and I have to sit back and just take stock of what I have. And you know, I'm in London where I want to be. I'm in a very loving relationship. I get to do what I want for a living. You know, I get to play with my guitar or bass and double bass in my hand, and I don't have to go and do an office job, which is one thing. I just want to do stuff with music. I'm in a couple of bands, one that's more, you know, casual, and one that's going places. And I can never, you know, can't be more thankful for that. So for advice, just take your time, make sure that you're on your own path, don't bend to other people's wills, and if you are struggling, then just take some time out. Like, there was a time where I was doing insane sessions, like going from 7 p.m. till 5 a.m. in the studio, then like teaching all day, or like guitar teaching all day, then playing shows in the evening, then going on tour for 3 days, coming back, doing the same thing again, and just like getting 4 hours sleep a night, 6 hours sleep on a good day, like barely functioning and really being aware of what was going on in my life, and then just realize, oh, I'm pushing these people away, like I'm not making these connections I should be doing, and blah blah blah. So just take things at your own time, and it'll come to you. Just work hard as well. Like, no one is going to give it to you on a plate, and if you're passionate enough, then you'll find some time. And that's another big lesson, you know, on a more of a musical advice, is if you want it enough, you will find a way to do it. So many musicians I speak to, and I'm like, oh, you know, I practice for like 3 or 4 hours a day, and they're like, how? I haven't practiced since I was like 16 years old. And it's like, well, I want it. And like, there's a host of music that I don't know. There's a host of things that I can be better at. There's a whole side, you know, I think I'm quite well versed in jazz, but there's a whole side of that. There's a never-ending journey that I can just practice and bash my head against the wall. But, you know, there's always new techniques, new things to do. You can always make yourself sharper, better. And that's what I love doing. I love music as a whole. Like, I don't think I'm like a rock musician or a metal bass player now or anything like that. I just think I'm a musician who happens to play bass in a metal band and guitar in a twinkly emo band.
Do you have any advice for, I guess, like budding session musicians?
Yeah, I would. If you're starting off, just take everything that you can. That you need to build up a portfolio of your playing and what you can do. So, you know, again, I find it very difficult I've seen it very difficult for people to specialize in one area from the off. Like, you can't say, you know, I'm a metal guitarist, I'm just going to do metal sessions. Like, that's cool. And if you can shred and do all the chug chug, great. But if you're doing a country gig, that's not really going to help. So
I'd love to see that.
So I would say, like, if you're in these like local band circles, there's always going to be singer-songwriters, you know, people just playing with acoustic guitar and vocals. Definitely get to grips with music software as well, so you can write and play with, like, along to yourself. And understand what you're doing. And with those singer-songwriter types, make connections, invite them over, see what you can do with their songs, you know? That's how I kind of got into it. Go to open mic nights, definitely. Jam nights, and just don't be afraid to get up and play. It's trying to be fearless, I guess, is the main thing. Try not to go what I did and just, you know, sleep on people's tables and go nuts in another city. But try and make those connections, you know. Put yourself out there, get on and talk about it, you know. Say you're available for shows, say you're available for functions, say you're able to help people write songs, build up that portfolio. It might not be paid to start with, and that's totally fine, because see it as like an investment or like an internship, and that will lead to paid work if you're good enough. And I think with a lot of hard work, it will be good enough, you know? So I'd say put yourself out there, get to grips with some music technology, help people help each other. And if you see lots of gigs come up for, like, say you're a bass player and someone says, I need a guitarist, get in touch with a guitarist friend. Build the network that way. Try and remember everyone's face at least, if you can't remember their name.
Facebook.
Exactly. And just build up your client list as well. So not only build up your repertoire of styles you can play, but trying, not like a Rolodex, but Facebook.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
people
yeah.
who like session players and stuff. You never know where that could lead. Just practice as well. Practice hard. Don't focus on one style. Try and get many different styles under your belt. And I find with a lot of pop stuff, there's a lot of crossover with, Motown and jazz and stuff like that. But if you can bring that sort of rock or punk edge, which is what I felt I could do, growing up listening to a lot of bands like that, when I came to the pop world and they wanted like a slightly more aggressive sound, I didn't sound like some like middle class tryhard who's never heard what a punk song sounds like. It's, oh yeah, power chords. That's what they do, isn't it? Yeah, just listen to as much music as you possibly can, play as many different styles as you possibly can, and just throw yourself into it. No one's going to wait for you. So
that's some good advice. I guess like the last question would be, what are your targets for the next 12 months?
Cool. So the Yacht Club record is coming out on the 25th of January. So that's going to be great to finally have that out. We've been recording it for like 18 months to 2 years. To get that out will be a massive achievement. Hopefully do a few shows and hopefully tour it. The Employed to Serve record comes out next year. There's a few bucket list festivals we're playing. Some great shows. So I'm going to ride that wave as much as possible. And, that's going to take up most of the year. But in 12 months' time, like their new record's out.
Yeah.
I would have done I did a Scandinavian run with them, but like my first tours and festivals will be under our belts from then. Hopefully get the Yacht Club on some of the festivals as well. And there's a few other things in the works, like I'd like to I'm working on a new project with a friend of mine, so maybe that will come out as more pop orientated. Okay. So that was going to be another string to my bow, something else different. But hopefully have the Yacht Club record out, the Employed to Serve record out. I'd like to start working on the new Employed to Serve record. I think there's going to be a few demos kicking around. Yeah. But we'll see what the timeline's like. The new Yacht Club record we're already demoing, so already like the initial riffs are coming out, and I'd like to put out another solo thing next year, whether that be just me and an acoustic guitar, or like a full band sound, but much like the Yacht Club was, where I was sort of coordinating everything. Just see how that goes. But I would like to have something out under my own name, which I've never done before. Yeah. So that'd be really cool. Yeah, that should come out. This new pop thing. I got a couple of nice endorsements through hard work as well. I think my own Gordon Smith custom guitars coming at some point. Yeah, so very nice. That'd be lovely. Yeah. To have. And just build up more stuff like that. There's a couple of other people I like to beg for endorsements and grovel. But yeah, hopefully just raise my own profile as a musician and also the bands that I'm in. It's very, very easy to talk about myself, but Employed to Serve is very much a band, and I'm so grateful to be on that journey with them and to see what the future holds for us. I think this new record, the last record won Kerrang! Album of the Year. Yeah. This one, in my opinion, blows out the water. Yeah. So really excited to see the response to that. And I'm really excited to see what people think of the Yacht Club record as well. Especially with Jack, singing some of the songs on the record now, much more of a band thing. But it's all a big open door at the moment. It's going to be an important year, I think.
Well, I think with all of that, it sounds like it's going to be a good year, to be fair. But thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Cool. I'll put all the links and everything for people to check it out. So thank you.